everybody, and welcome to Bits of Board, where we're talking board games, miniatures, cards, and dice. My name's Michael, and today we're checking out Mythic Battles Pantheon. This is a game from Mythic Games. It is a miniatures skirmish game that allows you to build your own armies from heroes, monsters, gods, from Greek mythology. Honestly, this is the ultimate Greek monster sandbox thing you'll ever see. It's got some campaign elements. Now, I really just wanted to show it off a little bit today and give you a bit of an idea of how to play. It's not an unboxing. It's not necessarily a review. I'm not really going to go into huge amounts of depth here, but I do want to show off the components of this game, as well as give you a brief idea of what some of the main elements of this one are, namely combat and the whole selection process. Combat being one of the most unique features in this game, as well as it's got its own little deck building, hand management kind of thing that we'll touch on. That being said, let's start off by checking out these components and we'll go from there. Alright, let's do it. So before we check out the miniatures, those beautiful, beautiful miniatures, we're going to check out all the other contents and bits and pieces that come in the base game. So right here is pretty much everything else. So we've got some terrain. This is a rock. Lovely. We've got some columns here, and we've got a lovely stack of columns to play with. We've got trees to populate the forests, and we've got the stack of trees back there as well. We've got a bunch of cards here. We've got our Art of War cards and Omphalos cards. So these cards represented by these tokens when they're on the board. These little, they're great. They're little bumpy, I don't know, little bumpy guys. Here's a photo for kicks anyway. We've also got some tokens that we can use for various things throughout the game. So mainly powers here. We've got some scenario specific stuff and stuff to represent our villages, because you can actually include villages in the game as well as an added bonus. We've got our dice, our units, and our character cards here. And the dashboard. So they're all the extra bits and pieces. Everything's quite lovely. Here is Aries, and with our little slider there, we can sort of track how much life and what sort of skills and abilities he's got. It is just a pop-off thing, so there's nothing really securing it there. However, a gentle tap upside down, nothing's coming off there. So it's not that bad at all. All right, let's move to the board. So we've got two double-sided boards going on, and these boards are all set up completely differently. They've all got their really odd-shaped little areas that you can place your units. Each area has a number in there, so we've got a 3 over here, and that means that we can fit 3 units in that particular spot. However, this one over here, quite large, can fit 5. The other thing that these things do is if they've got a certain little symbol on them, so right here we've got this little red thing, it means we chuck one of our rock pieces there. Similarly, over here we've got our forest locations, that they need some trees as well. So just having a look at the other side here, we've got some, I don't know, colossal chains and stuff going on here. What else? We've got this beautifully dark, spooky area here, and what's going to be some sort of destroyed temple, I guess. All very different from each other, all going to be used different ways. They actually tie in really well with the scenario book. There are very specific scenarios written for each of these as well. Alright, so Mythic Battles being a skirmish-focused guys-on-a-map fighting game, combat is going to be a huge element. So I wanted to start off by showing you just how combat works in this game. Really, really great idea. Let me just start off by saying that. But let me show you how this works. So I've got 2 cards here. We've got our Amazon unit card here. These are our Amazons over yonder. Now with our Amazon unit card, you can see that these guys have got 3 attack, 4 defense, 2 range to attack with, and 1 movement point. Basically, this means they can roll 3 dice to attack, They require 4s or more to be damaged. They can shoot from 2 spaces away, and they can move 1 point during a movement action. Real simple stuff there. They also have a special ability down here saying that if this troop contains at least 3 Amazons, they get +1 attack, which means we've got 4 attack going on down here. They've also got a couple of other abilities. They have initiative, which comes into play for, retaliation in combat, and the climb ability. We might touch on one of those in a sec, but they are going to be fighting the mighty Spartans over here. So here's our crew of 3 Spartans, and over here, let's see what they've got. 2 attack, 6 defense, nothing to do with ranged, 1 movement point, and they gain +1 attack per Spartan. So they'll actually start off with a 5 attack, but if the Amazons can take away a couple of these guys, well, they're just going to get a little bit weaker. They also have 2 abilities, Mighty Throw and Guard. We'll see how these go. I might be able to show you Mighty Throw, depending on how we roll the dice here. Let me just move them around so we can keep an eye on them. Let's do a fake attack. Let's attack with our Spartans here. Now, when you activate a unit, you actually have to... You can't just say, hey, I'm going to activate these guys. Throughout the game, you're going to be building a hand of cards from a custom-built deck. And as you can see here, I've just got a fake hand here. I've got 2 Spartan cards. And I can actually use one of these cards to activate my troop here, which is what I'm going to do. So when I activate a troop, I play the card into my own discard pile, and then I can choose to take 1 complex action or 2 simple actions. Right now we're just talking simple actions because that is the move and attack of everything. So let's do our 2 simple actions of a move. I'm going to move my troop of Spartans into the same area as these Amazons, and with their second simple ability, action, they're going to attack. Right here we have 2 damage, +1 for each Spartan. We've got 3 dice to be rolling here, so let's roll. Basically, we are aiming for 4s or more. All right, what do we got? So we've done pretty well here, actually. So we've got a 5 here. We've got a 3, a 1, and a nothing. Usually, blank faces will do nothing. I should actually mention really quickly that these dice go from 0 to 5. You won't see any 6s pop up on these. So we've done a 5, which exceeds our value of 4 over there, so we've definitely got a hit. And then we've got these 3 dice here that don't actually make the cut. But that is not where the roll ends, which is really cool. We can take this 3, and then we can add 1 extra dice to it, pumping it up to a 4. We can add another one to go to a 5 if we so wanted to, but this 4 here would be enough to take out another Amazon. Now, we did manage to roll a blank face here. Usually, we just move these out of the way and don't even think about them. But for Spartans and the Mighty Throw, this comes into play. Basically, it means we can move this unit that we're attacking 1 space away with this Mighty Throw. So, in this case, let's just throw them over here behind us. Hopefully, we could throw them in the path of someone else being able to do some attacks next round. But that's pretty much what's going on with our Spartans. Let's rewind and bring all our teams back to full health. And I'm going to show you how just some ranged abilities work for these Amazons. All right, here's the crew. Basically, we've got, where's my activation cards? Here we go. All right. Here's my hand of cards that I prepared earlier. We're going to use our Amazon card here, and we are going to activate them. Just a quick note, I'll show you what's going on here. We've got the name of our group, and we've got some stars down here. Basically, that says how many cards we've added to the deck. The Amazons only have 3 cards to play around with, so 3 activations per deck. Easy to remember, right? So let's use this activation to the discard pile here, and we're going to do our 2 simple actions again to attack the Spartans. In this case, we're going to use our movement to climb on top of this here rock. Here we go. Let's send them up. Now, the Spartans wouldn't be able to do this because they don't have the climb ability, but the Amazons, they're nimble and they like to use high spaces because not only do they get some bonus range from there, so they can actually shoot further and they can ignore obstacles, they get a bonus attack roll. So with our Amazons over here, they start off with 3 attack, +1 if the group contains at least 3 Amazons. Wonderfully, they do. So we're also going to add another dice for being on top of a rock. So we're rolling 5 dice against the Spartans here, and I might be able to show you something pretty cool, because these guys have a toughness of 6. So let's roll. Now we are talking. Oh, that was a 1, guys. There we go. Let's bring them over. So with this empty dice, we're just going to move that out of the way. We did not roll well there at all. The rest of them, we're going to take our 5, and we're actually going to try and make another. No, we don't really have to do that. Cool. So we're going to use this 1 here to change that into a 6, which means we're wounding our Spartans here. But with this one here, we're not actually going to make it all the way. So we're taking this 4 and we're adding a dice to make it a 5. So basically what we're doing is we are going like this and adding them together. So we've got 1 hit and 1 non-hit. The great thing is, if you can modify, or if you roll 5s and it's not enough to actually do damage, where in this case it's not enough to roll a 5 to hit, we get to roll an additional dice as a part of the second assault. So let's roll that, and we roll a 5. With second assault dice rolls, we add them directly to the roll. So here we have a roll of 10. So we've got a 6, we've got a 10. That's enough to take out 2 of our Spartans and absolutely crushing their ability to do damage next turn, because they've just lost 2 of their attack. Now, I imagine that might be a little bit to take in straight away, but basically what you have to remember, anything you roll, if you can turn it into a 5 somehow, you're going to get a bonus roll adding the total pips of that roll to it, which is going to come in handy for some of the tougher monsters. Let's take a look at our Hydra, for instance. We're going to move that Hydra over here, give us some room there to show some dice. And this is the Hydra's card, and that is a lot of information, right? These guys have got a lot more going on because they are bigger, tougher things. These units, they are just the basics of this game. We have Hydras, which are monsters. We have gods, which have special powers as well, but this guy is going to be one tough cookie to beat. Let me show you an example of Amazons versus the Hydra. Trust me, it's not going to go well. There's a couple of other things to take in on this particular board. We've got all the same stats as normal. These guys have 7 attacks, 7 defense, 1 range, 1 movement, and then we've got some symbols in here showcasing which abilities can be used at this health level. So right now we've got health of 10, as you can see in there. And if we were to reduce that to a 9, to an 8, to a 7, all the way down to a 4, we see things have gone a little differently. Right now we only have 6, 6, 1, 1, and we've only got a 4 in our Onslaught ability. So things change when you damage. So let's use this Hydra as a pincushion and send some arrows floating that way from our Amazons. So, of course, we would play our Amazon activation card, boom, and let's roll some dice. So we're rolling 5 dice for the Amazon here. Oh, I rolled 1, I'll roll it again. Here we go. So we've got a 5, we've got a 5, we've got 2 4s and a 2. Basically, we need to roll 7s according to this, which is just not going to happen on a dice that's going from 0 to 5. So we take these 5s and we put them aside because we're going to use them to trigger the second assault. We're going to take this 4 and we're going to bump it up a notch. That's becoming a 5 now. So let's just change that pit to make it really easy to see. And we have a 5, a 5, a 5, and a dice that we're not going to use just yet. Let's check out this second assault. I'll move this one out of the way, and I'm rolling 3 extra dice because we've got 3 5s here. And here we go. I'm going to add this 5 to this 5, giving me a 10. I'm going to add this 3 to this 5, giving me an 8. And, well, there's not much I can do here. I've got a 5 here, and this other dice I used earlier, I could change into a 1 and turn that into a 6, but still, that is not enough to do damage to this guy. So, we do manage 2 hits, which is pretty sweet. So we're going to go boom, chuck that down a notch, and boom, chuck that down 1 notch as well. Let's give the Hydra a chance to attack back. Now, as the Hydra's just been attacked by the Amazons, we could use one of these special Art of War cards to trigger his Retaliate ability. But we're going to save that card, and we're going to use straight up one of his activations as part of his next turn. So we can choose to take two simple actions, which are like your move and attack kind of things, or we could go ahead and, bump out one of his more, intimidating abilities. Let's have a look. Onslaught. Now that would attack in range. Unfortunately, we don't have the range to hit these guys, so we're going to have to go with our two simple actions. Oh, so many things to remember here. So we're going to move him for our first, and then we're going to attack. So according to our little thing here, we have 7 dice to roll. Now, let's have a look quickly. He's got Mighty Throw, so it means any blanks we roll, he could throw our Amazons off the rock there. We have Torment, which basically acts as though the defender has 1 less defense, and we have Block, which we're not really making use of. So let's roll our 7 dice. The Amazons have a base defense of 4, which we're bringing down to 3 with our Torment. This is going to be an absolute bloodbath. Roll, roll, roll. We've got a 5, we've got a 4, we've got 2 3s, another 5, we've got a 2, which we wouldn't use. We've got a blank if there are any survivors, but right here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits, absolutely crushing our team of Amazons there. So that's basic combat in a nutshell here. Really interesting dice mechanic. We'll talk about that a little bit more later and why it is so cool. But let's move on to the stuff that builds the scenario. So not just combat, let's look at some of the other things that make this game great. Alright guys, here it is. And this is possibly my favorite aspect of Mythic Battles Pantheon, and that is the draft. Honestly, this is just the base set here, right? We have so many creatures and things that you can add to your army. Let me just straighten that up a little bit. Cool. So basically the game starts off, you pick a god. And then you start to take it in turns from there, picking other characters, heroes, troops, monsters to add to your army. And then you take those armies to the field and fight. Now, like I said, like I showed, combat is very cool. It is head and shoulders above so many other skirmish games out there. But this is where it's at. This is where you can put into play your wildest dreams as far as like Greek mythology battles. This is where it's at. So as you're picking, you basically take the miniature, you take the board, and you take the cards associated with that draft. So here Zeus has got a couple of cards here. Let's say we add Hercules to the mix. So I'll take the Hercules cards here and we add them together. Let's get Odysseus. Let's throw in some Infernal Warriors, and well, we could probably go a couple of others. I don't know. Let's see. So in a basic skirmish of the game, you have to abide by one simple rule, is that you're allowed to draft up to 15 points worth of creatures, characters, whatever. So Zeus here, he is worth 6 points, as you can see down the bottom there. So 6 points there. We've got, who else did I take? I took Hercules. He's worth 4 points, so that's 10 there. Odysseus, 13 there. Who else did I take? Infernal Warriors. Now, these guys don't have a point value. None of these little troops do, so they're only worth 1 point, which means I could take one other troop, and I'd probably take my favorite Amazons. Honestly, I have no idea if this is even a good idea, but it don't matter. This is what I want to do in the game, and it was awesome. Then, after that, you take all of the dashboards that you've taken there, because I don't believe these show up on any other location, and you have a look in the bottom left for these little up arrows, and these refer to your Art of War cards, which means Zeus contributes 2 Art of War cards to your deck. Odysseus has got 3 because he's a bit of a tactician, and Hercules, not a great tactician, only gives you 1. So that's 6, which is still pretty solid. So we take 6 Art of War cards from the stockpile, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we shuffle these guys up and make a randomized deck full of activation cards. Now, what do these Art of War cards do? Well, it's a good question. These are essentially your wild cards. You can use them to activate any creature. So let's draw our first poorly shuffled hand here, right? We draw 3 cards, and as a part of the start, we get 3 Art of War cards, bonus ones. These are on top of the ones that we shuffled into the deck. And wouldn't you know it, I obviously didn't shuffle too well, as you saw, and I've only got Amazons. But these Art of War cards allow me to activate other characters on the board. So I could use one of these to activate Zeus. These also come in handy to fire off some of the powers of your tougher characters here. So Zeus here, let's have a look up here. His lightning ability, we've got two little up arrows here, two Art of War cards need to be used to trigger that ability. So you have to call it. I'm going to use lightning. You pay 2 of your Art of War cards into your discard pile, and then that can go off. So these are extremely valuable, and holding on to them, making the decision whether you want to activate a character that you may not be able to activate anytime soon, or use it to fire off a surprisingly overpowered ability. It's just that's where a lot of the decision comes through in the game. Now you'll play through your deck, isn't that shockingly shuffled? But once you get to the end, you shuffle it up again and you're good to go. So yeah, that's pretty much how activations work. Now while they are the 2 large elements of the game, there are a lot of other nuances that you have to learn to get good at this. And this is where the steep learning curve of Mythic Battles Pantheon comes into play. Each and every character has its own unique set of skills. Skills, abilities, magics, whatever, you know, they should be played completely differently. Like, for example, Minotaur. He's got a charge there. He's also got Bloodthirst. The charge basically allows him to run through characters and, you know, actually do damage to them. He's got high attack, high defense, so he's quite a tanky creature. Throw that up against someone like Atlanta here, whose main ability is like a double attack that allows her to stay mobile. She's got very little health. The way that you're going to play Atlanta versus the Minotaur is completely different, and each of these characters is wildly different from the next. Alright, so they are the 2 like cornerstones of this game. We've got our combat elements, very unique dice system in there, and we've also got our drafting, that is the bread and butter for the game. I think I said that before, but that is like my favorite part of this. I want to make these armies happen, and I want to see how they go against your armies, seriously. Anyway, that being said, we've seen everything splayed out on the table. You've seen it all from afar. It's time to get up close and personal with those minis. So here they are in all their detailed, beautiful glory. Check it out. Now, I was initially drawn to this game through Kickstarter, of course, right? And it was mainly the miniatures that got my attention. I think the first picture I saw was one of the Spartans going head-to-head with one of the Hydras, and it's just such a cool picture. I was like, how can I get this on my table as a board game? Checked it out. This thing was insane, but I did not expect there to be a game behind it, right? I thought it was just going to be a cool, like, this is going to look awesome on the table, it's going to look cool painted in the collection, but there's a game here? What? This has got to be one of the coolest uses of dice in a combat game around. It's not just roll to see if you hit over their armor kind of thing. It's roll and then modify. And if you do alright in that first set of swings with your character, you can roll again and continue that onslaught. Like, it really does feel like a game of combat there, and if you do get the upper hand on your opponent, you are going to go for gold, and I think that's what this game really captures, right? So there's obviously a little bit more to this game than we've seen in my video. It's not just rolling dice and drafting creatures. It's a skirmish game, so there's got to be some strategy as to how you play. Now this game handles character activation really, really elegantly. Through the creation of your team, you create a deck of cards that you draw from throughout the game, and the cards that you have in your hand directly relate to which characters you can activate on your turn. So there's some pretty mean decisions in there. You might not have the card to activate the character that you want to activate. In fact, you may have run out of them completely. Now the game addresses this directly, straight away through those Art of War cards. They're your wild cards, so if you don't have the exact card you need, chances are you can use one of those Art of War cards to, get you where you need to go. But those Art of War cards are also integral to playing some of the strongest abilities in this game. So you sit there and go, do I want to activate this character, or do I want to save my Art of War cards so I can really hit hard with Zeus's special ability over there? And this is where you'll encounter some of the most interesting and meaningful decisions in this game, and it's cool. Now it's not something you can just jump in and play. I mean, you can, you just might not do too well against someone who has played before, because knowing how and where to use the characters, how to draft, what combinations work the best, what situations to use them, then you're gonna be left a little on the sidelines, right? In fact, keeping track of all these characters, it's tough. I'm still finding it hard. Not only have your gods got these special abilities, some of them they don't need to be activated. They're with you the whole time. Sometimes you might forget to include that. And then they've got their talents, which are those other things like being able to climb, to guard, to throw another character. You might forget that you've got one of those available to you. So there's a lot to remember, and if you're going up against someone who has experience, not necessarily with this genre, but with this particular game, you're going to get crushed, right? So if you do pick it up, try and find someone to learn it with, that you can grow together and be, equal on the battlefield from day one while you're still learning the game. Anyway, I'll stop rambling, because clearly I like the game, and I don't really know why I like it. It's not like anything else I've got at the moment, so that's probably a bit of a bonus as well. The miniatures are gorgeous, so that's another reason that I like it. Anyway, that's probably about it for today, guys. I've talked long enough. If you want to see more of this game, let me know in the comments below. We'll give it a proper red hot go. But other than that, we are about done. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. My name's Michael. This is Bits Aboard. We'll catch you next time.